All right, well, I'm Scott,
I'm TJ.
and
I'm Ryan the Gaffer.
this is Ryan the Gaffer, and this is a review. On today's episode, we will be reviewing Jaws.
Dun 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 dun. Yeah.
So Jaws, it's a movie from Steven Spielberg. It's a film from 1975,
The guy who plays the mayor.
and we're reviewing it today because we figured why not. We're here on our company retreat. We jumped the fence, and this is actually the home of Steven Spielberg's housekeeper we broke into.
Not only is this a review, but this is an invasion.
Yeah,
Welcome
this is
to
a home
the
invasion.
Crime Cast.
So-
But we did see Jaws in theaters.
We did. It was
IMAX.
on IMAX.
And
yeah.
Max.
Which TJ, this was your first time seeing Jaws.
I had never seen Jaws before.
You've seen Jaws
I
before.
know. But Jaws was great. I wasn't sure what to expect. I loved that people screamed in the theater
Yeah.
at this movie that's been out forever. Like literally, I heard someone scream and then go, "I forgot about that," and that was just great.
I jumped.
To hear.
There was
Me
You also-
too.
the
you also
moment.
screamed
the
at
There
one
was
moment.
one point where I went, huh?
Yeah.
I looked
the-
at you and you looked at me and I was like, shut up.
the moment where the oceanologist, Richard Dreyfuss, where Richard Dreyfuss is diving under the boat to see
Oh, I forgot about that.
who
Yeah, that
bit
was-
the shark, and then a
yeah.
head right in the frame, and it's, oh my god, I
He
jumped in my seat.
screams
Yeah.
in the water and
I was legitimately tense at multiple points in the film, but I gotta say, I love the first half more.
yeah.
The
So-
first half is incredible. The pacing,
Yeah.
the tension, everyone coming up to him being like, "Oh, you gotta help me with this." Like you just feel the stress
Well,
of the town.
the first half
on
of the
him, and
film,
it's really great.
The first half of the film is a lot of, it's more the setup. You're on the island. You're trying to deal with the project or the problem from more of a logistical standpoint as a chief of police.
It's about
'cause
the
you're
people
following
and the
him.
politics in the
Yeah,
first
it's the
half.
politics.
Yeah.
It-
And the second
first-
half's just straight up
Well,
shark.
and
Yeah.
there was a really nice moment that I didn't remember from the first one in the second half when they're comparing scars, and he kind of looks at a scar on his stomach, and like kind of covers it up with his shirt.
Yeah.
And so obviously it's a gunshot wound, right? And that's why we were wondering why this New York cop is here in this town.
Well, and he mentions earlier, he's like a lot of gunshots
Yes.
in New York. and
Yeah, a
stuff
lot of
like that.
gunfire. You have to walk your kids to school, and it added a dimension to me for the character that I don't remember having because I haven't seen the film in years. That I really liked, you know.
Yeah.
And it sets up well for the sequel, I think, as well. Which Jaws 2 is not a terrible movie.
What do you think about the theater experience?
been-
You've seen this before, but what do you think about that?
Yeah, so seeing this movie in the theaters is obviously a much different experience than seeing it at home on a small screen. I mean, this is a movie that it's pretty famous. We've seen it a lot before. I've seen it a lot before in film school and at home, and just, you know, it's just been a movie that's been part of my film history, and it's nice to see it on the big screen.
Would you say that, you know, for me, it was my first time seeing it on the big screen. I don't think it would have been nearly effective if I had saw it for the first time at home. Do you think that in the age of streaming, it is as effective as a first watch, not on the big screen?
Good question. You want me to? Is that?
Yeah, Ryan, you go first.
Yeah. So for me, like watching a movie on DVD is like, at the time as a kid, it was like a thing. 'Cause you had to make sure the DVD was okay, and then you had to put it in, and everyone sat down and really sat to focus. And now it's like, oh, let's watch that. It's a different experience. There's something about physically putting the time in to put a DVD into a DVD player, or a VHS into a VCR player, for those who know what that is, and sitting down and watching it as opposed to just being like watching, sit down, nothing, like no effort. Like, not that it's a lot of effort to do those things, but it's almost like a ritual.
Sure. Yeah. It's you're putting more choice into it, so therefore you're going, this is like a moment. I'm going to put time aside. I'm going to
It's
watch
an experience.
this. Yeah,
Yeah.
I get that. What do you think, Scott?
No, I agree.
I mean, I don't think it doesn't not work. Like, if you saw this at home for the first time, you'd still think it's good, but I think that it would have been a lot harder to focus with, like, my cat and my phone readily
Yeah.
available.
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
a nice bug.
Dragonfly.
Dragonfly.
The film is segmented into kind of the first half, which is a lot about trying to deal with the problem on land, and then they really figure out at a certain point they just have to go onto the water and hunt it themselves, which they set up a lot that your main character, Chief Brody, Roy Schneider, he's afraid of water, he's
Yeah.
afraid of sharks, he doesn't know how to swim, he's a very land-based man, which they joke about multiple times. Why is he working on an island? Why is he living on an island? So that's his kind of character flaw that he has to confront the ocean at some point, right? That's kind of the big lead up in this movie. So the first half, I think, is a lot more of your classic Spielberg. That's where you see his elements shine the most. The framing and the foreground elements. I mean, there's a part that it's a very small scene that stood out to me a lot, was they're setting up the no swimming on the beach signs, and there's one in the background, they're kind of hammering it in, and then one right in the foreground in front of you pops up, and it's just there's a lot of, and you mentioned earlier, there's a lot of very dynamic shots in that first part where they're very claustrophobic and there's people talking and he's walking down. I mean, one of the great ones is where they're having a conversation and then all of a sudden they're on a ferry and they don't even call any attention to it. All of a sudden you're just moving across the ocean or the lake on the ferry.
Right, because all the kids are swimming in the ocean. They want to take the ferry to get the kids out, and then the car pulls up. I had that shot noted when we watched it too. I was like, wow, what an inventive, amazing shot. And the shot just holds still. Yeah. But because the ferry moves, it adds this life that I don't feel like we get in modern movies.
Yeah, it's an element that it really shows what makes Spielberg great. It's like people talk about Spielberg being this great director all the time, but then you watch this movie and it's subtle. It's like there's nothing that's like jumping out that's like, oh my God. It's not flashy, but it's very subtle blocking and how the characters move throughout the scene and framing and it's all very simple stuff that's almost been lost as the art of filmmaking kind of,
Yeah, we've moved to a
degrades.
quick cut culture.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's so I agree with you though. The second half where they're actually hunting the shark is where the movie gets a little more stale, and it's still very exciting and there's a lot of moments, and it's something I noticed watching this again on the big screen was how it is pretty constant. Like there's not a lot of downtime. There's little moments here and there that they let you rest, but then even then it's like that shark is really, Jaws is coming for you constantly.
He's hammering into him.
It's a lot more consistent than I remember. I remember it being a little bit slower, and it is like it does keep it moving a lot more when you get to that point.
I was actually surprised at the pacing of that, having seen this for the first time.
Yeah.
Because I felt like it would be almost more traditional scary movie, but because it's the second half of the film, he really delivers on the action and promise.
Yeah.
Well, Act 2
I
and
mean,
3.
not only that, but the shark was actually working for the second half of the film because they couldn't get it to float for the first and make it like
Oh yeah, the behind the scenes.
the behind the scenes issues actually had a huge thing to do with why we never saw the shark, which is amazing because
I mean, to the benefit of the film, arguably.
Oh yeah, the shark would have looked like shit if they would have showed it. It
The
would have
scene
ruined
where
the
he
movie.
sees the shark and like hops up, that scene still from my childhood is in my mind. Like I remember seeing it as a kid, and that was the first time in the movie where I was like, oh.
That is something I noticed though, is that being in mind, the shark is pretty, like when it does attack, it's very stiff in certain moments, and there's most moments where there's no music and it just like pops up and it's like kind of laughable. So it doesn't, at times, the time is definitely worn on it where you don't, the effect is lost a little bit, especially knowing the behind the scenes or, going to the Academy Museum and just seeing it strung up. Bruce, the mechanical shark is what his name is. From the ceiling, it's like a lot less intimidating, but yeah, it's still...
It's intimidating.
The shots, it depends on the shots, yeah. For the most part.
But like the feeling, having left the theater, it was intimidating.
Yeah, it's definitely still scary. It's still effective, I would say. TJ, what did you think about Jaws?
It was incredible.
Really?
It was. It truly was incredible.
Yeah.
I had a great time. Honestly, I'd rate it 5 out of 5 shark teeth.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Jaws is
a great white shark teeth on that one.
Jaws is
Great
an
white
easy
shark teeth.
5 out of 5 for me as well. Yeah, that's an easy one. That's a classic. How can it not be 5 out of 5?
I would give it a 5 out of 5.
5 out of 5. Bunch of Spielbergian nerds in this pool.
I've been on kind of a Spielberg kick lately. They had E.T. was in theaters. I saw
Did you
that
see
as
that?
well. Yeah,
Oh, good
so
job.
That would have been cool.
it's been nice
I
seeing
don't
this
like E.T.
stuff up on the big screen.
I'd give it a 4 out of 5 because it's a classic. But
You don't like E.T.?
no. We're here to talk about Jaws.
Well, yeah, because you don't like E.T.
Exactly.
A lot of bugs. Okay.
Yeah, there's ants on your leg.
On my leg?
One ant.
Oh, yeah, that's all right.
It's gone now. No,
Well,
it's not.